You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Hello, I'm Steven Willis from the Locked On Ole Miss channel, and he is Daylan Flowers from the Daylan Show and a weekly contributor on the site. Daylan was in Fayetteville. He got to see all the records get broken. He got to see Archie Manning's Cy Young level unbreakable record fall in the third quarter of the game. It was an absolutely record fest. Daylan, what was it like to be in Reynolds Razorback Stadium?
It was a very fun time, man. It was a pretty decent atmosphere in Fayetteville this weekend, and just great for me to go back home and see a lot of friends and family. But a very decent atmosphere. I think Hog fans were excited for the possibility for their team to be bowl eligible kind of this early in the season, I think, which has exceeded a lot of their expectations. But it was a fun atmosphere. And right from the get-go, I just saw a free flow of positive energy from this football team that I really hadn't seen since really the first couple of games of the season. And I thought that was very, very important for us to get up to a very quick and hot start. But it was a fun time, man. I think one of the keys that we had kind of talked about last week was silence this crowd early. You know, it's going to be a raucous crowd. This Fayetteville game is always very funky for us, a place that we haven't won since 2008. What can we do to put all the real weird possibilities in our favor? And that was one of the quick things we did. We got involved with our tight end Daquan White really early, and he stepped up really tremendously, especially in that first half. And it was fun to see Dart just go out there and have fun. That's something that I believe this offense has kind of lacked throughout the course of conference play, just having a little bit of fun and being free and just playing the football that I've watched them play. And that's really, really elite football. And that's something that without Trey Harris, without Caden Prescorn this past weekend, they executed at a very high level. And I genuinely couldn't have been more proud and happy to see Jordan Watkins have that moment, but as well see Razorback Stadium kind of get a little empty right after halftime, just to kind of test to how good and how talented this Ole Miss football team is compared to the Arkansas Razorbacks.
Yeah, and for anybody that doesn't want to hear about uniform talk, that doesn't care about that, you might want to just track forward a little bit for a few moments, because we're about to go. Ole Miss wore the same uniform they wore against South Carolina. And repeating uniforms was not on my bingo card, which means for this Georgia game, the powder blue helmets, the red jersey, and the gray pants, the true OGs in the uniform closet, they're on the table for that game. It would make all the sense in the world if Ole Miss wore that combination for this football game. I
agree. You know, when the uniform combinations came out this past weekend, I didn't expect it. I thought we were going to continue that form of trend with, I think, different jerseys for every game. But I also believe we had already seen two of the same white jerseys, the new jerseys that we had seen coming this summer. But it was definitely something that I'm looking forward to, because fans are supposed to wear red this weekend. And I think that jersey combination that you described is definitely going to tie into things that we've worn in the past when the crowd has to wear red. I think that this game brings in what we wanted before the season started. The media, SEC Nation will be here. Barstool will be here. Obviously, College Game Day will not be here, but all eyes will be on Oxford, Mississippi at 2:30 p.m. Central. And so the jersey combinations are definitely going to matter tremendously. I think that's something that I've talked about, brings in a bit of peace for recruits and how well they want to look when they're playing in games. But all the eyes in the world are going to be on what is happening this weekend. So I think it's no better time to actually bring back that tradition of what Ole Miss uniform history has and display it at obviously our biggest game of the season to this point.
Yeah, and other people that might be interested in uniform, that was the first game that Jaxson Dart has played this season without a helmet visor on. That was where he played and that happened. So that means that Jaxson Dart cannot wear a helmet visor, no matter what the reason was for not wearing a helmet visor in that game.
And bringing up Jaxson Dart, man, I a lot of kind of just noise has been around him this past week with the Halloween situation and, kind of the TV clip of him going off on whoever he was going off on. But I want to say really quick, I'm just really proud of the kid. I think that sequence on television, Some people be like, oh, he's a pity, he's blah, blah, blah. But I really think he showed a bit of leadership, a bit of pride, and a bit of just grit that I really want to win this weekend. And that's something that we needed, especially on the offensive side. Jaxson Dart is the leader of this team. He's the leader on both sides of the field. He's the leader he's when the guys are not having their way, Jaxson Dart is the guy that they look to. And I truly believe he saw in his heart, and Lane Kiffin had a chat with him, and they said, we have to have a complete game this weekend. And that's what Jaxson Dart went out and did. One of the things he's done tremendously this year and last year is taking care of the football. He has limited his interceptions tremendously since his first year at Ole Miss. And, although we have not truly adapted to what we think this offense can be this late in the season, Jaxson Dart has done one thing really well, and that's taking care of the football and not making too many risky throws when they're not needed. You put the stats up right there, 21 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. I'm sure you'll talk about it later in the week, and I'll get into it later on, but Carson Beck has 8 interceptions in the last 3 games. That's a huge number difference, but this stat right here shows me the experience of 3 years in the SEC under a Lane Kiffin offense and truly how progressed Jaxson Dart actually can be when he has the right play calls, when his offensive line is giving him some time, and the run and passing game is balanced enough where, hey, I can do this, I can use my legs when I need it. And as well, that deep ball this weekend. Man, oh man, Steven, Jaxson Dart was putting the deep balls on the money like we saw him do tremendously in the first 4 games of the season. And then when conference play started, we kind of were asking, where's that Jaxson Dart we were seeing in those first couple games? Well, we saw it this weekend. I mean, with ease, Jaxson Dart was putting the money right on the chest of Juice Wells, of Jordan Watkins, of Daquan Wright. It was just a bit of leadership and confidence that I see not only with his words, but with his actions on the sideline and on the field. And that is what is going to take us to the rest of this season where we want to go. And that's hopefully finishing up undefeated with our chances of getting into the playoffs still very much alive.
Tomorrow on the show in the morning, especially, and during that podcast, we talk about Carson Beck and his total numbers. And then we broke it down, his numbers outside of the state of Georgia, his numbers against AP top 25 teams, his numbers SEC only. And just to show you that this isn't the Georgia team that Ole Miss faced a year ago.
Yes.
These are not the same guys. There's no Brock Bowers or Ladd McConkey running around on that field. There is no Kendall Milton at running back. Now, don't get me wrong. This is the most talented team in college football, and they're loaded with 4 and 5 stars. But this isn't that team. And that tells me that when they get to Oxford, I think it was Carson Beck has 9 interceptions in his last 3 games played outside the state of Georgia. 3 against Alabama, 3 against Texas, and then 3 against Florida.
Yeah.
All of this tells you Pete Golding needs to throw the kitchen sink at him, especially if the weather is not good. Try to confuse him in some way and force those takeaways, because I'm going to tell everybody something right now. If Carson Beck throws 3 interception Saturdays, Ole Miss wins by 14 points. It's not particularly close if Carson Beck does that. So it's going to be on Pete Golding to force Carson Beck, who's only human. He's only human. He's got to be having confidence issues right now. That's the way this works. And he is going to have to get into a rhythm and feel good about himself before it clicks in, just like that halftime of Jaxson Dart against Oklahoma. The same type of thing has to happen for Carson Beck. It's going to be imperative for Pete Golding to make sure that doesn't happen.
Steven, I think this is one of those games that I think we kind of talked about last week against Arkansas. Like, we truly don't know what we're going to get. And I kind of get that same feeling this weekend against Georgia, too. Georgia has struggled tremendously this year compared to the standards that Georgia football has established since Kirby Smart has been the head coach. But as well, they went to Austin and beat Texas. As well, I know they lost to Alabama, but that second half adjustment, which you saw from Kirby Smart, they almost came back and won that game, which they had no business being in after that first half collapse. I think as well, one huge key that I want to bring up is Georgia's rushing game is dropped off tremendously compared to last year. They're the second to last team in the conference in terms of rushing offense, just ahead of LSU. And guess who has the number 1 rushing defense in the conference? The Ole Miss Rebels. So that is going to be a huge key. Continuing to contain and box the run game like we've seen this defense do so much against every SEC team this season, but as well how do we confuse Carson Beck, like you just said? Look, he looks very confused out there. Even when there's times when Carson Beck's not getting pressure, I'm still seeing him throw into double coverage. I'm still seeing him throw into disguises where safeties are coming up but dropping back and then making the play on the ball. Carson Beck is really going to have to sit back this week and understand he has to take a lot of what he's done this season and forget about it if Georgia wants to win this game. Because a lot is at stake for Georgia as well. They have Tennessee next week, and then they have UMass and Georgia Tech. This game for them is almost equally as important, I would say, for us in terms of just the pressure off their shoulders and eventually evaluating, okay, we have a chance of getting to the playoffs and being successful. This is going to be a true game on the trenches as well, Steven. I think we got so much talent in the offseason, especially reamping our defensive line, not only to try to win the SEC championship game and make it to the playoffs, but to compete with Georgia. To compete with these teams that we lack size on the line of scrimmages on both sides. And this is the opportunity for Lane Kiffin, Charlie Wise, John Garrison, Pete Golden to establish how great, and Randall Joyner as well, to establish how great we actually have transformed those lines of scrimmages this offseason.
Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. When we come back, I will tell you why that rain in the forecast actually benefits Ole Miss. Stick around for that. Hey, Locked On Ole Miss fans, it's time to recognize the Roy Player of the Week. So far this season, we've pulled over $20,000 to support players on Roy, micro deposits that lead to massive change. With the Roy app, you can direct your support to athletes you love, ensuring the funds go specifically to that player that you choose. Unlike collectives, you know exactly where your support is going. And you even receive exclusive content like personal videos and updates after the season. The best part is it's risk-free. If the athlete transfers or it doesn't deliver the content, you get your money back. This week, I'm supporting Jaxson Dart. I pitched in $100, and I'd love for everybody to join me. Even $10 makes a difference. Let's show Jaxson Dart the love and keep him connected to Ole Miss. Remember, pay today, celebrate tomorrow, and your support sets the team up for success. Plus, don't not miss a Roy exciting giveaway. Win 2 tickets to a game in November. I just downloaded the Roy app, create an account, and enter the referral code Locked On, 2 words, and you're entered. If you're already on Roy, make a contribution to any athlete's campaign. That gets you entered automatically. There's no purchase necessary, void where prohibited. Download Roy to now and join the NIL game with no subscriptions and fees. Be sure to check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Roy_return-on-you for more information. Roy, support the players, change the game. And hello, everyone. Let's talk about ZBiotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink, the world's first genetically engineered probiotic designed by PhD scientists to tackle those rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in your gut, and it is actually this byproduct, not dehydration, that is to blame for how you feel the next day. ZBiotics produces an enzyme that helps break that byproduct down so you can wake up feeling great. I admit I was a bit skeptical at first, but I decided to give ZBiotics a try before I went out with my friends. Listen, I made the first drink, enjoyed the evening. The next day, no sluggishness, no headache. I felt ready to tackle my Saturday morning hike with zero hesitation. Here's how it works. Drink the pre-alcohol with your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, of course. Remember to pace yourself, hydrate, and get a good night's sleep, and enjoy tomorrow. Wake up refreshed and ready to take on the day. Want to try it for yourself? Go to zbiotics.com/LockedOnCollege and use the code LockedOnCollege at checkout to get $15 off or 15% off your first order. And with their 100% money back guarantee, you got nothing to lose. If you're unsatisfied, they'll refund your money. No questions asked. Remember, that's zbiotics.com/LockedOnCollege and use the code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Start feeling your best after a night out with ZBiotics. That is pretty cool indeed. So, listen, Daylan, I think with the weather forecast that Ole Miss is dealing with right now, I think it's like a 70% chance of rain. Now it's just Monday, so that's going to change probably 15 different times between now and Saturday. But if it rains and it actually goes down, I think it's advantage Ole Miss, because I trust Jaxson Dart to take care of the football more than I do Carson Beck, throwing it with a wet ball. Ole Miss actually, believe it or not, has a better running game than the Georgia Bulldogs. And Ole Miss has the top rushing defense in the entire SEC. And Georgia has given up over 100 yards a game. I think this might be a situation that's kind of advantage Ole Miss if the weather is inclement.
I 100% agree, man. I think this weekend showed us truly how much depth we officially have on this football team. And I think, like you just brought up, Georgia's defense is giving up over almost 109 rushing yards every game. Whether, Henry Parrish will now more than likely be out of the game, this gives us more opportunity to hopefully see Ulysses Bentley. Dominique Thomas came into the game against Arkansas and showed a few flashes as well. But this game against Arkansas, people kind of realized this was a rainy game a little bit. It was a very kind of rainy morning, and the field was not really dry or anything. It was a cloudy, little bit of wet, wrinkled day. And I think that, like you said, can prepare us for games like this against Georgia. But as well, I noticed this tempo of this offense truly get into what it wanted to against Arkansas. And in a weather type situation, that may put our offense in more of an advantage because the defense, they can have as many coverages, they can play man all they want, they can send as many blitzes as they want, but they truly don't know what's going to happen until the offense actually runs their plays. So this is going to be a fun matchup for us as well. I think it's a chance for Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin to knock out a lot of the naysayers. This year has obviously not gone the way that we have wanted it to, but Lane Kiffin has the opportunity to say, you know what, you guys say I haven't won a big game. Here's my opportunity right here. You guys say I can't get the job done. Here's my opportunity right here. I'm really proud of the way this group of players is still playing because I think a lot of fans believed after the LSU loss and the way it happened, a lot of players were going to be like, what's the point, not giving their 200%, effort anymore. And that's not what we've seen from this group of players. They continue to execute, play hard, and give everything they've got. And that's exactly what it's going to take against Georgia. One thing I want to bring up that I know you've kind of tweeted about and talked about, but Lane Kiffin has got to just take points when they're given to him. Whether that's in a red zone, 4th and 1. We didn't bring in J.J. Pegues on that 4th and 1 against Arkansas. And the defense ended up getting a fumble and scoring a touchdown, which is great. But in opportunities like Georgia and even LSU, where we saw those 4 rushing plays and then us not converting the 4th down, you either have to take the 3 points or honestly just bring J.J. Pegues in when it's 4th and 1 because we've seen no one can really stop him. Every defenders just bounce off of him. But we have to take every opportunity that's given to us against Georgia because at the end of the day, Carson Beck has looked really fragile over the last month of football. But this is still Kirby Smart. This is still the Georgia Bulldogs. This is still a team with 5 and 4 stars on both sides of the field that on any given day can and will compete at the highest level and truly expect them to do that this weekend because they understand the expectations that they now have on themselves as well in a tight SEC race. This is going to be a fun game. I look for us to just continue to take care of the ball and watch Pete Golding on those 3rd downs. Tremendously great job, especially this past weekend. I watch him a lot bring in Princely Umamiele, and dude, watch out for Princely. Just quick off the line. Sometimes doesn't even get all the way down on the ground. Just run straight up, and it's so hard to stop him from getting to the quarterback and making the quarterback be comfortable in his pocket. What we're going to have to do this weekend against Georgia is that same exact thing. Continue to put the pressure, but our defensive backs, Trey Amos, TJ Banks, John Saunders Jr., they're going to have to play a great game as well. Our pass defense has just been a little subpar to where our rushing defense and our defensive line and linebackers are played, but they have the opportunity to now make amends for who they really can be this upcoming weekend. Create some turnovers, create some havoc against Carson Beck. Truly show how great this pass defense can be against one of the, I would say, honestly, the best offense we've technically seen this entire season. So it's going to be a game that I think is definitely going to come down to not only both sides of the ball, but how great our coaching does against one another.
The depth chart came out today, and Matt Jones and Dominic Thomas and Ulysses Bentley, they were all oars. So it's probably one of those guys going to get most of the carries, but we don't know who the main starter is. So we'll find out what's going on there. So what is your plan this week getting ready for this Georgia game before we get out of here, man?
Man, a lot of recording. Of course, I just signed on with the Rebel Walk, and so I'm having a fantastic job with them so far. Look for me on maybe some SEC After Dark episodes as well. I've been in contact with a great friend of mine, Roman Harper, that works for SEC Nation. They'll be in town, so you may see him come on and just kind of chat with me just about his thoughts about this upcoming game. It's definitely a fun game. This is, when the schedule came out before the season started, you're like, okay, this is the game. This is the game. People are going to come. This is the game. The TV stations, the news, the radio. This is the game for Ole Miss. Regardless of how our season has gone so far, this is the game people are going to talk about. This is the opportunity we have to say, okay, we're better than we were last year. We have acquired this talent. This program is bought into this season, and we have not wasted it. This is that opportunity to do so. And I'm just happy to be a part of it. I expect us to come out this weekend just a little bit more free. I'm glad that Arkansas game happened. It was not only a great resume win for us, but as well, it boosted our confidence and the ability that what we really have cannot really be stopped unless we stop ourselves. I think Jordan Watkins displayed his exceptional route running, but as well, how great he can get upfield and do damage once he gets upfield. We're talking about the running game as well. We obviously have to get that established going early. I'm not looking to make some crazy big plays on every run, but give the offense some balance that will allow our deep balls to even happen. That's something as well. The play calls obviously have been a little bit questionable this season, but our run game, the run numbers are actually top 5 in the conference. But, from just the eye test, we're not getting as much consistency as we would like as an offense. And I think if we were able to do that against Georgia, watch out. Jaxson Dart is in a groove now. I think we saw that at the second half of OU, and it continued against Arkansas. He's making the reads really well. He's dumping the ball out when it needs to, and he's not overthinking situations or taking dumb sacks. If he can continue to play a clean game, I knock on wood, but I think this is going to be a very great opportunity for Lane Kiffin and company to truly make amends to what the season has come to, but put Ole Miss on the mark for this season and for the rest of the season going forward.
Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team, every single day. Daylan Flowers from the Rebel Walk, the Daily Show, big superstar, getting ready to go. I'm just glad that he remembers the little people and still comes on this show every now and then. But Daylan, man, I appreciate it. You've done a fantastic job. I can't wait for you to do great things with the Rebel Walk and that going on. But I'm a proud guy because I like to think I got there first. I was an early adopter.
I appreciate it, man. You definitely am. I'm forever grateful for the opportunity you gave me well over a year ago now, which is insane. But I've been put in great positions just by being able to know fantastic people, and those people connected me with other people. So I appreciate you a lot. I literally couldn't have done this without you, and I'm still grateful that I'm able to come on and chat with you as much as I am and share my thoughts and opinions about our football program and Ole Miss athletics in general. It's going to be a great game this weekend, y'all. Show up to Oxford early, be loud, be energetic. We are going to need you guys to be as loud as possible to support this football team. I want people to watch this game on TV and say, Vaught Hemingway is a very loud stadium. I want Georgia to have troubles on third down and they have a lot of false starts. Show up and be early at the Vault because this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that you get here in Oxford, Mississippi.
Yeah, this is the game that we've been pointing towards since the day after the Penn State game. That's just the truth. This is that game. If Ole Miss could get to the Georgia game with everything on the line, we talked about what that could be. Well, Ole Miss got to the Georgia game with everything on the line. Anyway, Daylan, thank you very much for coming on. Go be a student, have fun, and enjoy this weekend, buddy.
I'm going to do my best, man. It's going to be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I don't get too many of these, so I'm going to enjoy it to the best of my abilities. Howdy, y'all. Show out this weekend. It's going to be a great time.